Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Hello, everybody, and thanks again for joining us on another edition of the Jboy Show. Really excited to welcome you. Got another great guest, but first, I do got to give a shout out to our partners at betonline.ag. Head over there today. They've got unbelievable sign-up bonuses. We got the NBA playoffs. Whether you want player props, team props, you want parlays, straight ups, however you get down, they've got it at BetOnline. Also, Major League Baseball is alive and kicking. Got some other stuff going on as well. So head over to betonline.ag today and tell them that Jboy sent you. Very excited to be here with Mike Scarborough, owner and publisher of TigerBait.com. Does an unbelievable job covering LSU and everything, recruiting analyst. If you want information about LSU, it's a great place to go. Mike, I appreciate you joining us, man. Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be with you guys. It's already fast and furious. The recruiting dead period ended at midnight this morning, and recruits are already in the building at LSU, and we got a local cornerback from Woodlawn High School that's gotten an offer. So it's camp this weekend. Official visits June is going to be between recruiting and LSU looking for a baseball coach. I think LSU fans going to have a little bit of whiplash and a lot to chew on.
No doubt. And it's so good to have it back to a little sense of normalcy, getting these kids to get on campus, because going to see it, having your parents, guardians, whoever going to see it is so much different than doing a Zoom. And Zoom will always be a part of recruiting. I think it's something that added during this offseason, but it's nice to be able to start doing what we're used to doing and covering what you're used to doing. You bring up the kid from Woodlawn who just grabbed an offer. And Mike, I got to start with Paul Mainieri. I mean, a guy with 1,500 wins. I don't know anybody to say a bad word about him as a person. Has done really well on the diamond. LSU makes a regional. Number one, just your thoughts on Paul Mainieri and LSU getting into the regional, because I know y'all are excited to try and send him out the right way.
Well, look, there's no doubt that, LSU fans are, if you want to say they're like Kentucky basketball fans or Alabama football fans and have high expectations, if you want to say they have unrealistic expectations, you can get after Coach Mainieri for one national championship in 15 years. No one's going to duplicate what Skip Bertman did at LSU, and not just at LSU, but anywhere else in the country. It's just, it was unbelievable, but it was a different time. At the same time, there's no denying in the last several years, and had last year played out with COVID, with the trajectory of last year's team, that team would not have finished well. So, he makes a move, but it's also a deal now where it's, careful what you wish for. If you're Scott Woodward and those who are out there courting coaches behind the scenes, you better have a darn good plan or know that you're going to get somebody really good. Because once you get past the guys on our hot board at the top, you're going to have some people saying, some of the guys I think in the next category down could be viewed by reach as some. And have some thinking that, boy, you probably should have maybe got Paul Mainieri to see another specialist to see if you can get that neck fixed, and maybe kept him around a bit longer.
Yeah, who are some names off the top of your head that you've heard, or maybe some leaders in the clubhouse? And we know LSU, with the tradition and legacy of that program, is able to shoot for the stars when it comes to a coach. Who are some names? We've heard some Tennessee coaches, Tony Vitelli. You've heard a little Texas Tech. Who in your mind stands out right now?
Well, I think it's at the top. You've got Schlossnagle and O'Sullivan at Florida. There's been a lot of conjecture and behind-the-scenes stuff with O'Sullivan for several months. Of course, they've got a new stadium in Florida. There's, a lot of people say that the Florida fans don't support baseball there. Maybe he's looking for a change of venue. And so how might that play out in the coming weeks? You look at who's possibilities for LSU. Look, it's you're probably talking a minimum of several weeks, and this coaching search could well go a month. I think on Friday when Mainieri announced his retirement, it got a lot of Aggies nervous because Schlossnagle at TCU is, the guy at the top of their board, and they believe that the only way he would leave TCU would be for another Texas school in A&M. But I think, Scott Woodward's track record and what he pulled off with Kim Mulkey, and of course he got Jimbo Fisher there in College Station while he was there before he came home to LSU. I think that's got them a little nervous. So, and then from there you go down to Cliff Godwin at East Carolina. I don't think Mike Bianco is going to want to talk to LSU. I think LSU fans will probably scoff a little bit with him due to, lack of championship success he's had there in a couple of decades. And then, of course, everybody wants to talk about Coach Vitello with Tennessee. Certainly him making a little over $400,000. He's due for a huge pay increase in Knoxville, and them getting a number 3 seed yesterday. So those are just some of the names right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to follow. With, like I said, LSU is going to get a guy. There's a lot of guys lining up that want to coach at LSU. But I want to shift to football for a second in recruiting. LSU coming off a year last year that was a disappointment. Anything coming off a 2019 national championship would have been a disappointment other than a championship. But 5-5. But Ed Orgeron's a great recruiter, has a staff of great recruiters, made some new hires. Have you already seen the new hires start to cultivate? I know the dead period just ended, but have you seen LSU, who I'm looking at some of these team rankings are as high as number 2 right now? Have you seen those new coaches really have success kind of connecting with kids in this class and around that area?
Yeah, and look, and I always tell people, it's not just the assistant coaches. It's the player personnel guys that do a lot of phone calls and a lot of relationship building. LSU went and hired Mason Smith from Mississippi State. They got the top guy from Virginia that was in the background there that had Louisiana ties, was offering a lot of Louisiana kids and getting some Louisiana kids to visit there. Blake Baker at linebackers coach, though, I think he's making some inroads. I think all the new coaches on offense, Pete's, Mangus, I think those guys are doing very well. But I really want to see who shows up for camp. And I think that's going to be, look, everybody's jockeying for a position, because you've got this 1 month here, and then you're going to go back to, July being what it typically is in a non-COVID year. So everybody's concentrated on the month of June. And how long can you get a kid on campus if he's not there for an official visit? He's there for a half day because he's bolting out the door to maybe hit a camp at Auburn or Alabama or going to Texas A&M. A lot of these kids are lining up road trips that are absolutely insane. I know you guys have seen it online, kids listing where they're going and the dates. And, who's going to have what, who's going to have the biggest pop in their visits. I'm seeing kids who are saying that they're wanting to go for unofficial visits and not participate in camp. I know the coaches want to get them at camp and have hands-on. And particularly, like this LSU first weekend camp is going to be phenomenal. I know they call the one at the end of the month the elite camp, but Saturday and Sunday this weekend is going to have some big time kids. So, and we're working on that list right now, putting that together. So, I think it's going to really be it's going to be a whirlwind of a summer. I think LSU is going to be typically where they're at come Labor Day weekend, close to 20 commitments. I think the class of 23 commitment list is probably going to double in number, and a lot of new offers are going to go out. So it's going to be very exciting. These coaches, you can watch all the huddle tape you want. You can watch, every, high school game of the week that's on local cable access, whatever means they've been getting filmed. That's one thing, but to actually have them on campus, stand in front of you, looking in the eye, and then having them, in one-on-one drills, with the best of the best. And that's where LSU's really been, one of the best in the country.
Yeah.
Is when they, have 7-on-7 at the end of those camp days. And it's, the Stingleys of the world going up against the Jamar Chases in high school. That's where you really know what you're getting into.
Without a doubt. And you talk about commitments in these camps. So do you think LSU will get a couple commitments off this camp this weekend or really in the early parts of June now that we're getting ramped up, whether it's class of 22 or class of 23? I'll
be shocked. And I wonder too, not just at LSU, anywhere, wherever a kid's from, is there a kid that's, thinking that he's going to take a whole series of visits in the month of June. And then he gets on campus this weekend and he's just, it's a whole different animal from everything he's been, he's been Zoomed to death, and his parents have been Zoomed to death, the virtual tours. They get there and it just feels right. And all of a sudden, all those camp plans for the month of June is going to be big time. So
yeah. No, it's
there
going to be
you go.
interesting. I'm going to say it's like a timeshare, like the way some of these coaches set them up. You know, like you bring a guy in, you know, is going to commit. It's a vibe. Everybody's excited. All of a sudden he commits. Everybody starts dancing around. Then they go up to him and be like, hey, are you next? Are you next? I feel like that's how every timeshare has ever been sold and bought. But it's going to be interesting. And you're right. You bring up a great point. I mean, these kids haven't experienced this. They really haven't. And being able to go do it in person, especially at a place that may be close to home, a place that you grew up rooting for, is going to be big. And again, LSU's had success. And it's going to be really interesting to watch how these camps evolve. Speaking about interesting, you need to make sure you download the Dynasty U app. It's on Google Play, anywhere you get your apps. It's like a LinkedIn for high school kids. So if you have a prospect, son, daughter, or you want to help somebody out, or you are the prospect, you download this app, you fill out your profile. This way you don't have to email or have your parents email the coach 30 times and then them never want to talk to you again, because that's a real thing that happens all the time. It's concise. It's easy to find, from academics, highlights, everything you need in one spot. Download the Dynasty U app. It's great stuff and it's free. Let me say that one more time. It's free. So get in now while it's free, because the way it's popping right now, I don't know how much longer that's going to be. So download the Dynasty U app today. But really excited to have Mike Scarborough here, owner, publisher, tigerbait.com. They do an unbelievable job recruiting anything. And I want to shift to this year on the field, Mike, because, you know, you look at the coaching scenarios right now in the SEC, not any really coaches on the hot seat. I guess you could say people, now that the expectation has been set at LSU and championships are the expectation, maybe Ed's under a little bit of pressure. Do you feel that there, or do you feel like he's going to be able to take that motivation, which is what he does best, and use it to a talented roster this year and maybe make some noise and get back where they need to be?
I think he would be feeling pressure if he knew he had a lot of deficiencies on that roster.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, certainly, look, if heading towards November, LSU's got 2 or 3 losses already, you know, there's some pressure. But man, when you look at this LSU team, and I think he's got his best defensive line. He's got a quarterback room that he's got options. He's got 2 hotshot freshman running backs to add to what he's already got. Kayshon Boutte and a host of others, and some true freshmen that are adding to that wide receiver group. Linebacker was looked to be a weak spot. You get Micah Baskerville back. You get a transfer from Clemson and Mike Jones, who's already getting projected to be a nice high-round draft pick. The safety spot was considered to be a head-scratcher, one that LSU fans might be worried about. You had Major Burns in there. Jay Ward has a fantastic spring. So, you know, and then your offensive line, the average age is probably 23 years old. So you add all that on top of an embarrassing 2020 season. I think these guys are hungry. They ended last year with 2 wins, by the way. And the schedule flips, and you get Florida, Auburn, and Texas A&M at home. You go on the road to Tuscaloosa, of course, start the season at UCLA. I think LSU is going to be favored in every game except one. So I think anything less than 10-2. I'm at 10-2 right now.
Yeah.
And you know, and if they don't stub their toe, they could very well be 11-1. I just believe that. I think 9-3 will be a disappointment.
Yeah, and you look at Ole Miss, a team like that, you can't stumble over a team like that. I think you're right. I think they're going to be favored in a ton of their games. Really interested to see that LSU-UCLA matchup. It's really interesting. Not that I don't think LSU is going to win, but it's just interesting to see those 2 teams play together, and really cool, and glad that they're doing it. Glad that they scheduled it.
Yeah,
but you talk about – go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, you know, and that's a game there now that we know it's going to be a 7:30. You know, LSU fans are scrambling to get airfare, and a bunch of people are heading to that game now. That's going to be 100% capacity. And of course, that's a Fox broadcast. It ain't often LSU's on Fox. So there's a lot of excitement about that game, and a lot of local travel folks that put together packages for LSU fans, air and lodging and game tickets. I think the LSU contingent in Los Angeles is going to be through the roof. So a lot of excitement for that one. So, yeah, I think, look, there's a lot. It seemed like across the athletic department last fall, end of the year, between USA Today stories, Title IX, the football season, basketball and still waiting on what's going to happen with Will Wade. Baseball outlook wasn't that good. And now it's just like I think the outlook now between a baseball coaching search and people excited for a new era of LSU baseball. A lot of people are like me that are thinking this is going to be a huge bounce back year for football. And look, Vegas came out last week, said the over and under was 8.5 wins. I think that's feeds into it. I suspect next month the writers at SEC Media Days are going to pick A&M to finish second rather than LSU.
Not me, Mike. Not me. I got LSU finishing second.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't buy A&M. I didn't last year, and I don't know if you watched that LSU A&M game last season. If LSU just would have gotten a mediocre to average quarterback play in that game, or had Max Johnson started that game, I think they win that football game.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's, think about where that game was in the third quarter. I mean, there was some opportunities. They just couldn't muster anything. So, and then you get them at home. So, yeah, but I have LSU second, but I do think probably in the voting, you'll have A&M second. Maybe I'll be wrong, but all that feeds into it. They want the people to continue to disrespect him. Ed Orgeron will feed off of it.
Oh, 100%. You'll have stuff in the weight room. You'll have videos playing of losing games and stuff like that. And Ed's great at that. He's absolutely fantastic at that. I think it plays into who he is and his kind of philosophy as a coach and the way he portrays it to his players. But, you bring up the quarterbacks, and LSU's got a great problem. A lot of people would like to have a problem like that. But with Max Johnson, and to me, looking at it and looking at this offense with Jake Peets and Magnus and the RPOs and being able to have zone read action there and making the defense have to account for the quarterback's feet. Listen, I know Miles was good last year, but I just don't know if he fits what they're going to do. Am I crazy thinking that?
I want to see how it plays out. Look, Finley, of course, transfers out, goes to the portal at Auburn. And, and I was telling everybody in the offseason, of course, you forget that he was a true freshman. But now in these days with these offenses, you have a lot of freshmen that come right out the gate and perform well. But the mistakes he made, I thought were correctable. But it was obvious without us media having access to scrimmages, if you just went by the spring game, he was third. So he departs. I don't know how they play it out when they name a starter, but if it's really close, I don't see Max Johnson going anywhere. I know there's people that think there's no way Miles Brennan would ever leave, but the last scenario you want if you're LSU is a scenario where Max is the clear-cut number one very early in fall camp, and Miles would depart, and then all of a sudden you're what you consider was a great quarterback situation
is down to one.
8 months earlier is now Max Johnson, true freshman, and Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, and again, it's when you're talking about roster structure, and this is where I don't think people talk about enough. Talk about all the time. Nick Saban is the world's greatest at it, and nowadays with the transfer portal, it's nothing for a guy to leave. I mean, we've been shocked by some of the people that have left places, and shocked by some of the places that they've went. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Miles, again, really good numbers. You wonder, like you said, if something happens early in fall camp and he's not getting the job, if he wants to go somewhere else. Do you see them bringing in another quarterback just in case to even out that room? Or are they kind of, nervous that may lend towards somebody else leaving, or maybe Nussmeier getting worried as a freshman?
You got Walker Howard coming at midterm,
yeah.
5-star quarterback from St. Thomas More in Lafayette. And there's already debate for 22. Does this class become a 2-quarterback class, or do they just go with Walker? And then do you maybe make the class of 23 a 2-quarterback class? That's going to be something we're going to be watching at camp this weekend. Obviously, Louisiana, we're seeing a run of quarterbacks here that's unbelievable. For you got Walker Howard this year, and in the class of 23, you got Arch Manning, you got Eli Holstein at Zachary. You've got Ricky Collins at Woodlawn. His teammate Jordan just got an offer from LSU this morning. Can't wait to see Ricky Collins at camp this weekend or in the coming weeks. I'm not sure which day he's actually going. But yeah, it's you bring in a quarterback from the transfer portal, and depending on what his eligibility is, that could cause you problems down the line.
No doubt. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. And again, I would be shocked if Miles left or if Max left, but you never know. And you got to prepare for the worst. You know how that is, especially when you get in that war room, looking at the roster and looking at the numbers. But Mike, man, this is great stuff. Got to have you back on, man. Tigerbait.com. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media and where they can find all your content, because it's great stuff. And like I said, I'm going to bring you back on, man. I know our LSU audience is excited to get you on.
Hey, anytime. And I apologize to you and your viewers if you've been hearing my notifications going off. I forgot to turn that off. But those notifications, I'm sitting there reading them while I'm talking to you. I got 2 recruiting news things that just came across.
Love it.
So yeah, it's fast and furious. Check us out at tigerbait.com, and we've got it all for you. And the text alerts in our newsletters. Sign up for free, but check us out for $1 at tigerbait.com. And the month of June is going to be insane for us.
Yeah, it is, man. I'm excited. We're getting back to normal, Mike, a little bit back to normal, which maybe mean a little bit busier in a different way, but we like that, man. When you're as passionate as you are and we are about covering this, I really appreciate it, brother. And I appreciate you guys. Make sure you head to thejboyshow.com, subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere. Like I said, I don't care if you're listening from Mars with a cup and a string. We appreciate you. We'll catch you next time. It's been another edition of the J-Boy Show, and J-Boy's gone.
The J-Boy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the J-Boy Show.